All right, so looks like we have about 21 people in the presentation so far, so let's get started. It's a quick one today. It's only scheduled for 30 minutes, so it should be short and sweet and hopefully very helpful for everybody involved. This presentation is going to be on doing OKRs the Atiim way. I'm Kyle. I'm the CEO of Atiim. We're an OKR management platform, software as a service. We help businesses scale their OKRs. We believe OKRs are the best way for businesses to create an aligned and engaged workforce and ultimately to execute on their strategy and grow incredibly fast. And so these slides are coming out of our practical real world experience working with hundreds of customers who are developing their OKR programs, implementing them, rolling them out, scaling them. It's a very practical presentation. And it was actually originally developed as an internal slide deck that I used with our customer success department to train new members of the team, to help them troubleshoot customer issues, to help customers to avoid the common challenges and pitfalls that come with rolling out an OKR program. But we eventually found that it was a big hit, not only with our existing customers, but also for new customers, for prospects during the sales process, for people taking demos with us. It really resonated. The simplicity of doing OKRs the Atiim way really resonated with everybody who wanted to use OKRs to improve their execution, improve their alignment and engagement internally within their company, but who were a little bit overwhelmed by what it actually takes to run an OKR program successfully. So before we dive into the actual deck itself, a couple of little details for everybody. First, the slide deck will be available afterwards. You can email hello@atiim.com if you'd like a copy of the deck. And the second thing would be that since this is a quick presentation, I'm going to kind of fly through this presentation, hopefully done in 20-25 minutes, and then we can leave all questions for the end. So I see one question though about people struggling to get into the webinar. So I'll make a little note to my team to see if they can. Sorry, somebody's saying that people are struggling to get in the webinar, so I'm just going to send a little note internally to my team to make sure there's no error. All right. Hopefully people could start getting in, though I do see 27 people in here, so I'm not sure if it's a problem for everybody. Okay. First thing though, let's do a quick little poll here. I'm going to launch a poll. And I just want to know, how is everybody doing on their Q1 objectives? So if you go ahead and everybody answer the poll. Obviously, there's a broad spectrum here. I hope that everybody on this webinar is at least familiar with the OKR methodology. You're going to be a little bit lost if you've never heard of OKRs before, but this is meant to be some very practical tips to help you get better at OKRs. So we'll leave this open for maybe 15 more seconds. Looks like most of the responses are, maybe 60% of people are saying that they're doing good enough, but could always use improvement. Maybe 2/3 of people in that bucket, which is great. This webinar is certainly going to help you if you want to improve your OKR program. It doesn't look like anybody thinks they're doing fantastic, which I also think is probably the right way to approach OKRs. It's a methodology where you have to learn over time. You have to continuously improve. So if you ever think you're just perfect at them, you're probably not setting aspirational enough OKRs. All right, and so it's like about 2/3 say they're doing good enough. Maybe 1/4 of people think they need some serious work, and we got 10% of people who don't have any objectives or don't know what objectives are. So hopefully it's just you haven't set any objectives for Q1, but you're looking to do it for Q2. So maybe I can convince you during this presentation that it's a really good idea to start with OKR sooner rather than later. All right. So we're going to cover basically 4 things in this presentation. First is focus, why that's so important. We're going to talk about outcomes versus output. We're going to talk about teams versus individuals, and then the many ways that you can achieve alignment in your organization. And the reason we're going to talk about those 4 things is because of item number 1 right there, which is that our whole philosophy at Atiim, it aligns really well with John Doerr's book, Measure What Matters. Most people are coming to OKRs with they've either read John Doerr's book or have heard about it. And in that book, John Doerr talks about how OKRs help companies unlock these 4 superpowers. And of course, Atiim follows that philosophy, and we build our product around helping our customers unlock those superpowers. So everything I'm going to talk about today, it kind of goes back to, in some way or another, to these 4 superpowers. And it's about reminding you guys as OKR program managers, as senior leaders, as CEOs, why you came to OKRs in the first place and how to get the most out of them. So my first tip, and I would say this one affects maybe 95% of companies that are struggling with OKRs, 95% of them, this is going to be one of their issues. It might not be the only issue, but this is probably going to be a major one. And that's that they lack focus. Again, this is the very first superpower that John Doerr explains in his book, and it's also the most common problem that I see. So it's one of those. It's really tough to properly prioritize. It's really tough to be patient with rolling out an OKR program, with implementing a new way to manage strategy and execution in your company. But that's what's required in order for it to work well. And so not only is this like the first superpower that OKRs unlock, but it's also really important for rollout and initial adoption of your OKR program. And whenever you're scaling a new business process to a mid-sized organization, there's going to be some friction internally. There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for people to build the habit of doing OKRs, for people to understand them, for people to be engaged with their OKRs. And so I always say, keep it simple from the start. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't try to build too rigid of a process from the start, but keep it simple, keep it focused. And that starts from leaders. That starts from the CEO on down. It starts from the top. And what does that mean practically? Well, in practice, it means just do fewer OKRs in general. Having more OKRs doesn't mean more of the superpowers. The first superpower is that focus. It's really important that you have a very focused set of OKRs from the leadership team on down. And I also always encourage our customers to take advantage of quarterly timeframes on OKRs. So many executives love planning the year out, and that's great. There should definitely be some annual planning going on, and it should definitely tie in with OKRs, but you don't necessarily need annual OKRs. And the reason for that is that the bullet point below that OKRs are meant to be agile. If they ever stop being useful, you want to change them, you want to delete them, you want to modify them. And so if you set these annual OKRs and then you end up modifying them every month or every quarter, that creates a lot of churn, a lot of confusion in your organization. So it's often better to set quarterly OKRs, a very focused few of them, and align them with annual strategy or long-term vision, long-term mission. But you don't necessarily need long-term annual OKRs themselves. And then finally, the focus should be on execution, not managing a ton of OKRs. You don't do an OKR program because you want to manage OKRs. You do an OKR program because you want to create business outcomes, because you want your teams, your departments, your individuals to execute on your strategy. And then, more from like a mathematical point of view, what does it mean to lose focus and to overcomplicate the number of OKRs that you have? Well, imagine you're an organization that has just 4 levels internally. You have your CEO, your top corporate level. You have your department heads or your VP level. You maybe have 1 level of management under those VPs, and then you have a level of employees. So a relatively flat organization. But if you start at the CEO level and you have 4 OKRs for the quarter, your VPs are going to see that. They're going to follow the CEO's lead. They're going to have 4 OKRs each. All of the managers that report to VPs are going to follow their lead. They're going to have 4 OKRs each, and on down, the employees each try to do 4 OKRs. And all of a sudden, with what look like 4 simple top corporate OKRs, you have 256 objectives at the bottom level, or in total in your company, and an even crazier number of key results. And so that's the kind of exponential explosion of complexity that can occur when you try to do too much, when you try to do too many OKRs. You'll quickly lose focus as you scale this program throughout your company. The next tip that I really love, this is one of my favorites, and this is it's related here to maybe the biggest mistake that I see being made constantly by customers that are struggling, and that's you need to avoid task lists. And the way to do that is you focus on key results that are outcome based, not output based. So there's a couple different ways to phrase this idea. I like to say it's about outcomes, not output. You might also say that value-based key results are better than activity-based key results, or you could say that business results are more important than tracking progress. All of these basically get back to the same idea that OKRs are not meant to just track tasks. They're not meant to track activity. They're meant to encourage teams to create business outcomes, to create outcomes for your business, outcomes for your customers. And I put this little quote in there from the Agile Manifesto. It's something that a lot of engineers or product people might know. But in the Agile Manifesto, they have a similar list where they have like things on the left and things on the right. And they say, while there's value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So I'm not saying that tracking progress isn't important. I'm not saying that tracking activities or output is not important. I am saying, though, that you guys are going to get a lot more value out of OKRs if the focus, especially at the key result level, is on the items on the left. Focus on outcomes, focus on value, focus on business results. And again, the biggest mistake, friction, or pain that I see constantly cropping up among our user base is that a lot of people's OKRs look like task lists. They don't look like objectives and key results. And a constant reminder that I give to our customers is that Atiim is not a top-down cascading project management tool. It's not meant for the CEO to know exactly what everybody's working on at any given point in time and exactly how far they've progressed since the previous week. That's not what OKRs are about. That's not what Atiim is about. And there's going to be a lot of pain if you try to create that rigid of a system. And you're probably going to, A, be busy managing OKRs in really complex alignments all the time rather than actually executing on strategy. And then B, you're going to create a disengaged workforce because they feel like they're being micromanaged. So I actually, in this one, I have a really cool example of a way that, Atiim, we internally use OKRs, and we're not perfect, just like anybody else. I would put ours in the good enough, but could always use improvement category as well. But we did a really good job. Last year, we had an issue where our product was getting overly complicated. It's something that naturally happens as software grows, as a product grows. You add more features, more bells and whistles, and it gets complicated. It gets a little bit harder to use, and it was affecting our sales because prospects would come into a demo and they would be overwhelmed by OKRs, and it would feel really heavy, really complicated. And so we created this mission. We called the project Goals Light. That was what we called it internally in the product team. And the objective was to simplify our user experience, essentially. Now, there's kind of two ways we could have gone about creating key results for this project. One approach would be we wanted to finish it by the end of September. So we could have created like a Q3 OKR key result that just said finish Goals Light, ship it to production before the end of September. So that's an activity-based key result. It's about output. That's like tracking the progress of the project. And so that's okay. There's certainly, key results can certainly be that kind of format. But instead we took a little bit of a different approach. And we went back to like, why are we actually trying to simplify? Like, obviously we want our users to be more satisfied with the product. So maybe that's a key result, some sort of NPS or user satisfaction score. Maybe we want to increase it by like 20%. That's a more outcome focused or value based key result because it's creating value for our customers. Or in this case, one of the primary reasons we were doing it was because we wanted to increase our win rate in the sales process, our demo to deal win rate. And so our key result was to get our win rate from 15% to 20% for customers or prospects who saw an Atiim demo. And what that allowed us to do is we very early in the Goals Light project identified not only that was our key result, but that it was possible to achieve that key result without shipping the full Goals Light project. And so what we ended up doing is we put it behind a feature flag. We released Goals Light in pieces iteratively behind that feature flag that we could turn on in a demo environment for the sales team. They could show it to prospects who were coming and doing demos. And ultimately, we did end up shipping it early. We shipped it at the very beginning of September, but we were showing it to prospects as early as mid-July. And it was increasing our win rate starting from mid-July, even though it wasn't released to all customers in production until the first week of September. So that's like a great example. I was really proud of the team for that one because by focusing on the outcome, which was an increased sales win rate, rather than the activity, i.e., ship goals light before the end of September, we were able to actually create a better business result for the sales team, for the company in general. And so that's one of the really powerful ways that focusing on outcomes is a lot more important than focusing on output. All right, the third tip I have here is that it's much better to focus on teams rather than individuals when you're doing OKRs. So, as just like a general tip, you want to try to get to a point where half of your OKRs are bottom up. And this doesn't mean you do this the first quarter you roll out OKRs. A lot of your employees are going to be confused the first quarter. So you need to maybe demonstrate the best practices with just a small set of OKRs at your senior leadership level, but you don't necessarily need every employee to create OKRs. But eventually you want to work towards this objective. Your objective should be that at least half of your OKRs are coming from your teams, your individual employees, your frontline managers, because that's how you create the engagement in organic alignment within your companies, is by letting them participate in the process. You could also cascade some objectives. That's not a terrible thing. You want to limit it, but if you are going to cascade objectives down lower into your organization, so if your VP of product is going to create an objective for a Scrum team, you should really try to avoid having that VP of product create key results from the Scrum team too. You want to say what the objective is. As leaders, you want to say what the objective is, but you don't want to define how they have to accomplish it. And again, no task lists. What happens when you do heavy cascading is that it's going to end up probably being taskless at some level, because you're basically just doing cascading project management. And then this also ties in, this team versus individual thing. It ties into a common confusion a lot of customers have around what is the place of other types of goals. So OKRs, it's like a flavor of goal. There's also like MBO, SMART goals, KPIs, individual personal development goals, even the personal goals in your personal lives. These are all types of goals, but OKRs are a specific flavor. They're a specific goal setting methodology. And so the best advice I can offer here is that while it's possible to do all of those other types of goals, you can kind of squeeze them into the OKR framework, and you could do that in Atiim. It's just important that you're clear internally within your own organization which types are which. I often recommend that all of your team OKRs should be true OKRs. They should follow the OKR methodology. But it's okay if you want to do personal development goals or performance management goals. It's okay for you to have individual OKRs that are actually maybe SMART goals, as long as your employees are clear about that internally. Because otherwise you're just going to run into a lot of confusion, and you're going to build a lot of bad habits if you're not clear about which is which. And certainly you probably don't want to align like a personal development goal with a team OKR, because attaining an OKR is very different than attaining or being successful at a personal development goal. OKRs are meant to be very aspirational. They're meant to be often stretch goals. That's that fourth superpower. And they require effort from a lot of different people. And personal development goals are something that an individual owns, and maybe an individual owns it with help from their manager, but it's a very different type of ownership. It's a very different type of accountability. It's a very different type of or different degree of how much you want to be aspirational versus committed to achieving that objective by the end of the quarter. And certainly don't try to tie, like a lot of companies will tie individual performance development goals to compensation. You certainly don't want to do that with OKRs, because then you lose those superpowers of like stretch for amazing. You start to lose the alignment because you have people who are trying to optimize for their own promotion at the end of the year, rather than what the objective of the team, the level of effort or the level of creativity needed for the team to achieve their objective. So again, it's okay to do different types of goals in your organization. Just be very clear about which is which. And I recommend that at the team level, you use OKRs. But if you want to use personal SMART goals or something, that's fine too. And then finally, the fourth tip I can offer is that one of the, like I said at the beginning of this presentation, one of the main reasons you come to an OKR methodology in the first place is because you want to create alignment. You want to get everybody on the boat rowing in the same direction. You want everybody to see the strategy and execute against it. And ultimately, that's how you get this crazy growth at Google and Intel and all of these other success stories, OKR success stories. That's how they got their crazy growth, was because they got everybody moving in the same direction. So you come to OKRs for alignment, and then you come to OKR software, and of course, you look for that feature called alignment. And this is a very common mistake that I see. And to be honest, it's kind of like a mistake on the product too, but it's something where this is why we have a customer success department, is because we do build all these really powerful alignment features and functionality into Atiim. But that doesn't mean you have to use them all. It doesn't mean you have to use them all the time. So, you look at items 2 through 6 on this slide. These are all essentially features within Atiim that are different types of alignment that you can do. But you'll notice that number 1 alignment that I put on there isn't really a feature at all. It's just the transparency and the reporting functionality within Atiim. And so one of the ways you do create alignment is it's just organic. It's just the fact that you've taken the time as leaders, as like program leads, as managers, you've taken the time to write down the objectives, the focused, prioritized list of objectives for the quarter that are most important for you. You've written them down. You've shown them to everybody in your company, everybody on your team. And that alone is one level of alignment, just because at that point, your company knows what's important to you because you said it. And so you don't always need to have all of these features and functionality and bells and whistles in order to achieve alignment. You can, and obviously at Atiim we help you do it if you want to, but just remember there's a lot of different ways to create that alignment. And it's like the classic, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So if you want to do like progress contributions, where you have this we call it algorithmic alignment, where like the progress of a child objective determines the progress of the parent objective. That's fine, but do it sparingly, because otherwise, again, you fall into this cascading project management trap. All right, and then, like I said, it was a short presentation. So those were the four major challenges or pitfalls that I see come up again and again with our customers. And here's just like a couple of bonus tips for you guys as you're setting off on your Q2 objectives, setting off on your Q2 OKR planning. Part of doing OKRs is you have to do weekly check-ins. So in Atiim, we have part of the application is this, what we call Pulse, which is weekly check-ins. And I always tell program leads, like, don't micromanage those weekly check-ins. It takes a little bit to build good habits, good behaviors within your company. Like I said, OKRs are often a business process change. And so if you are micromanaging which employees are checking in every single week, it's going to get very burdensome. It's going to get very frustrating for those employees. They're going to get disengaged. And that's the opposite of what you want to happen here. So focus on teams, focus on trends over time. Another thing that I often advise is that objectives are meant to be like what you want to achieve or where you're going. But sometimes it's very, very helpful to actually include the why. Like, why do you want to achieve this? Why do you want to go to this objective? And so within software, although you might make the objective title just what you want to achieve, sometimes it makes sense too to include a little bit about why, either in the title or in the description of the objective, just so that employees that are viewing it can see some of the context around why you chose that objective in the first place. And then the third tip here is that owning an objective or a key result doesn't necessarily mean that the person is doing all the work. It just means that they're the one that is accountable for the work getting done. So often, like with the team OKR, maybe the team manager owns all the key results, but that doesn't mean the team manager is the one doing all that work. And again, to avoid task management, sometimes you just need to pick a single person to own the key result, rather than trying to cascade a list of tasks to each person who's going to do one or more components of achieving that key result. So that's just like another trick to avoid task management. Is just, you don't necessarily need to assign everybody a key result. That doesn't mean that more people aren't participating. All right. And that's it. So looks like right on time, 25 minutes, like I said. So thank you guys for listening to this quick presentation. Again, the deck itself will be available to anybody who wants it. You can email us at hello@atiim.com if you have any questions, or if you're interested in a demo, or if you just want to know about more about OKRs or want some more content. We've got a ton of that on our website, or you can just email us and we'll provide that to you. So with that said, I'm going to jump into the questions here and see if you guys have any questions, please type one in there and I can answer them in the remaining 4 or 5 minutes that we have. Okay, so it looks like a couple questions about getting a recording of the webinar. So we could share that after as well. If you email hello@atiim.com, you can get a copy of this recording. You can also go to our Atiim YouTube channel. It'll be up there. We also have a link to it from our website. So lots of different ways you can get a recording or this slide deck itself. Okay. Any other questions? All right, with that said, that's all I had for the presentation. So I'll hang out here for like another 3 minutes until 2:30 here in Boston. If you guys do have any questions, though, let me know and I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, have a great day. Oh, here's one. So Drew is asking on the weekly check-ins, is it better to zero in on the reds only? So I guess Drew, you're asking if it's better to focus on like what's at risk only, um, like which objectives or key results are at risk. I would say yeah, and it just comes down to prioritization. The way I like to do it, a really cool workflow that I like for executives and VPs and stuff. You guys don't have a lot of time to be micromanaging all the OKRs across the company, and you really shouldn't, because that's again that you start losing focus at that point on what's important to you at the top corporate level. So I do recommend that you do kind of just start with what's at risk, and you kind of there's a couple approaches. You can go like department by department and just look at what's red, or you can go just from top corporate on down. And a lot of software like on Atiim, you can drill down through the levels of the department, or you can use like our alignment chart to see like when you identify a top corporate objective that is falling behind or is it that's at risk in red, you can then drill down into, okay, well, what are the contributions to that, or what are the key results below it, and you could keep doing that until you start identifying the components, the contributing objectives that might be causing it to be at risk. Okay, cool. Got 1 more minute here. If anybody has any last minute questions. All right, we can go ahead and turn off the webinar now. So if you guys do have questions, please email us anytime at hello@atiim.com. And